with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with people and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay?
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG reels, Facebook, anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all the supporters, man, who's watching the videos entirely. Comment down below. I greatly appreciate the support. Found this video for you guys today. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Stay with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
I can guarantee that the end of this video is going to shock you. There was a young girl who had trouble making friends because her mom wouldn't let her play with the other kids in the neighborhood. One day, the mom left to go to the store, so she snuck outside of the house. She grabbed her teddy bear and went outside, but still, none of the kids wanted to play with her. Eventually, a strange-looking boy approached her and said that he wanted to be her friend. The little girl was thrilled to finally have a friend her age, and he eventually asked if she wanted to come to his house to play. When they arrived, the little girl was confused, because the house appeared to be abandoned like no one had been in there for years. They walked into his garden and immediately the girl threw up. She asked him for some water and he just smiled at her creepily and said, "You're going to sleep here sometime soon." Weeks later, the girl went looking for him and he was nowhere to be found. Soon, a paper airplane flew to her and it was a newspaper clipping. She opened it up to find that the boy she'd been playing with went missing 9 years ago.
So it was a ghost or something?
This is one of the strangest unsolved mysteries of all time. In 1952, 9 Russian hikers who were all super experienced set off into the Ural Mountains. However, the path that they chose to take on the hike was pretty hard, even for hikers as experienced as them. And to make things worse, they ran into a severe snowstorm that night. So all 9 of the hikers decided to set up their tents and try and wait out the storm. However, at some point during that night, the hikers cut open their tents from the inside and set off into the snowstorm. All 9 of them began to head towards some trees that were nearby their campsite. And this is where the story gets really creepy. A few days later, 3 of the 9 campers were found dead in the trees. And at the base of these trees, there were a bunch of claw marks and scratches on the trunks. And the 6 other hikers were also all found dead, scattered around the area. And upon testing them, their skin and clothes appeared to be radioactive.
Remember this man who claimed to be Diddy's sex slave and no one believed him?
I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard lots of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with people and stuff, and I was like a sex slave, okay?
His name's Jonathan Audi, and allegedly he signed an NDA in exchange for $5 million in 2014. Now, how do we know this? This photo of this NDA was made public recently, and it has Sean Combs and Jonathan Audi's signature. So Jonathan was a well-known entertainer and later became a porn star, and he met Diddy sometime around 2014 at a party at the ultra-exclusive Star Island in Miami Beach. Jonathan had some crazy claims, but he said that he was forced to sleep with Cassie and others while Diddy watched and filmed. And to further corroborate this claim, at the time, Jonathan was married to a woman named Tanya Trotwine, who actually came forward the other day and confirmed that not long after Jonathan met Diddy, he asked her for a divorce. Tanya said that Jonathan was extremely pushy to finalize the divorce, and not even a month later after meeting Diddy, he purchased 5 properties mortgage-free, yet he only made $2,000 a month. So where did he get all this sudden cash? So that's definitely something to question, and now with Diddy's trial coming up, I'm genuinely curious to see if Jonathan would be testifying against him.
Only 3% of people can do this. You need to put your hand flat on the wall and bend your pinky finger back without moving any of your other fingers. So the real question is, are you in this 3%?
I am. I can do that easy. Are you in the 3%, seekers? Test it out.
Strangest unsolved mysteries in every U.S. state. Part 23, Colorado. In 1990, a man named Steve Lee moved his family into his dream house in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The house was in the middle of nowhere and was surrounded by a dark, dense forest. Just a week after they moved in, Steve and his family began to see strange, shadowy figures moving along the walls of the house at night. they began to hear quiet whispers, footsteps, and rattling chains all around their home. Even crazier, the family's electronics and lights began to flicker on and off randomly. Steve was afraid that people were breaking into his home at night, so he bought motion detectors and placed them all around his house. However, the motion detectors began detecting motion literally everywhere, even when there clearly wasn't anyone there. Steve thought the motion detectors were malfunctioning, so he placed cameras all around the house instead. They began to capture strange orbs of light floating around the house at night, and even ghost faces on walls and windows. Somehow, the family still lives in that same exact house to this very day, and they still experience the same strange occurrences every single night.
They need to move out. I don't know why they still there.
Here's the truth behind Winnie the Pooh. All of the characters in Winnie the Pooh represent a different mental disorder. Winnie represents an eating disorder, which is why he eats so much honey. Eeyore represents depression, which is why he's sad all the time. Tigger represents ADHD, it's the reason why he can never stay still. Christopher Robin represents schizophrenia because all of the animals in the show are actually just in his head. Piglet represents anxiety, this is why she is always nervous. Rabbit represents OCD because he is obsessed with order. The owl represents narcissism, this is the reason why he thinks he is wiser than everybody else. And Rue represents autism, this is why she is always confused.
On Wednesday morning at 2:17 a.m., 17 children from the same classroom at Maybrook Elementary School went missing at the same time. They got out of their beds, opened their front door, and ran out. Their parents were convinced that their teacher was involved in their disappearance. But after paying close attention to their Ring cameras, they realized something more sinister was going on. But if you want to know what happens next, you need to go watch the movie Weapons. I went to the screening, and hands down, it's one of the best horror movies I've seen this year. Weapons has such an interesting storyline, and I usually don't get scared from horror movies, but this time was different. Not to mention, it's starring Julia Garner, which made me so much more eager to go watch it. Also, Warner Bros. Really went all out because we were taken on a whole field trip right before we watched the movie, and we were kind of scared because we didn't know what to expect. Like, where was the school bus taking us? This entire experience really hyped up the movie for us, and it did not disappoint. Weapons is finally out in theaters today, and if you go and watch it, let me know.
Did any of the seekers see Weapons? I heard it was a whole movie, but I heard it was more of like a thriller.
These people were literally just sat on a Zoom call until everyone they knew started dying. Ever seen a horror movie that just makes you feel sick that you can't stop thinking about it for days? Well, these are the ones you need to see in under 60 seconds and no spoilers. You've probably no doubt seen scenes from The Grudge. Pretty terrifying film, but nothing compared to Ju-on The Grudge. This is the original, and it is absolutely horrifying. Same as in the popular remake, this woman goes and stays at a house, and then, well, there's a spirit that inhabits this house and horrendous stuff starts happening, but it follows more on the side of this boy who, like, meows. A group of friends decide to go on a caving expedition. Doesn't sound like a great idea. They go right down and descend into these caves where no one has been before, but wait, there's definitely people in there. This has probably the biggest jump scare I've ever seen in my life, well, multiple of them, and is just genuinely horrifying. Wait till they pull out the camcorder. This film was filmed completely on a Zoom call, which is crazy. Essentially, this group of friends get together one evening on a Zoom call in lockdown to basically speak to this psychic woman, and they're trying to contact people in the afterlife and prove to each other that paranormal life does exist. And, well, it definitely does. And, yeah, what happens next is crazy. The ending of this film, I don't think I've ever jumped so much in my life.
This boy survived one of the most brutal cartel attacks ever. It was a normal morning on November 4th, 2019, when 3 SUVs carrying mothers and children from a quiet Mormon community in Mexico unknowingly drove straight into cartel territory. Then, without warning, hell broke loose. Bullets began raining down from the hills. High-caliber rounds tore through metal and flesh as the convoy was ambushed by cartel gunmen, likely mistaking them for rivals. One vehicle was lit on fire with 5 family members still trapped inside, the air filled with screams, smoke, and the stench of burning bodies. In one of the SUVs, 13-year-old Devon Langford sat frozen as his mother was shot dead beside him. His younger brothers took bullets, blood pooled around his feet, but Devon didn't break. With ears ringing and his body trembling, he pulled 6 surviving siblings from the wreckage. Some were injured and one had a bullet in the chest. Devon dragged them into the brush, covering them with branches and whispering to them not to cry. Terrified the cartel members would come back to finish the job. Then he made an unthinkable choice. Alone and without food or shoes, he walked nearly 14 miles through cartel-infested desert. He did this to go get help, and hours later, rescuers found his 9-year-old sister barefoot and bleeding, still trying to save the others. Devon's heroic actions saved the lives of all of his siblings.
He co-founded a MAGA-themed fast food chain. Now he's facing deportation. Lebanese immigrant Roland Bainey has built 4 locations of Trump Burger in Texas. The restaurant serves everything from the Trump Tower Burger to the Melania Crispy Chicken, complete with Trump family impersonators. But Bainey is now under federal investigation after being accused of immigration fraud. Homeland Security says he faked a sham marriage to get his green card. Immigration officials reportedly found no lease, no shared accounts, no proof the couple ever lived together, and have already notified him that his green card is being revoked. He's due in immigration court in November, where he could be formally ordered to leave the country.
Let's talk about a fishing horror game where you have to pay off a debt you owe to a shark, but there's something else under the water with you. Yes, this is a fishing horror game, and it's called Lone Shark. Full playthrough of the entire game on my channel. The story here is actually really good. We're on a ship called the Vita Nova, and we owe 100,000 euros to a shark. That loan was how we got the boat in the first place, and now we have to get all of that debt by tonight. So we fish and fish and fish. But the problem is the fish we're catching are barely worth anything. The night ends in an hour. There's no way we can get the money in time. But everything changes when we catch the talking fish Cagliuso. This guy gives us one of his special eyes to use as a lure. And with that lure, we catch golden fish. And they are worth a ton of money. As we fish, we keep hearing strange things under the water. And Cagliuso keeps referring to an associate he knows. There's something else going on here. Are we being tricked? I won't spoil the story after that point. You can check out my playthrough if you want. But this game really is a terrifying depiction of how debt can spiral out of control. This girl was held captive by her family for 25 years. Blanche Monnier came from an esteemed family and seemed destined for a life of privilege. But when she fell in love with a man her family deemed unsuitable, a modest lawyer, her mother reacted with fury. Determined to stop the relationship, she took an unthinkable step to ensure Blanche would never marry. Blanche vanished without a trace, and for 25 long years, her fate remained a mystery. In truth, she had been secretly imprisoned by her own family in a small dark room of their home. With the shutters nailed shut and no access to sunlight or fresh air, Blanche was left in squalor, her basic needs ignored. She lived in silence and filth, confined to the same bed day and night while the family lied to the outside world, claiming she had moved abroad and entered a coven. Friends and society had no reason to suspect anything more sinister. However, it wasn't until May 23, 1901 when an anonymous letter reached the authorities in Paris that the horrifying secret was finally exposed. Police raided the home and discovered Blanche, now a skeletal, broken woman lying in darkness, her condition appalling. Blanche weighed only 55 pounds when she was found. Her mother was immediately arrested and the case sent shockwaves through France.
When I tell you this is the worst subject thing I've ever seen in my entire life, I'm not joking. This is actually the worst thing I've ever seen, and it is a massive, life-sized orca with a seal in its mouth that is completely submerged, and it comes out of the water on a dark ride, and it goes all the way back down, completely submerged again. And if you know me, you know I have a massive phobia of orcas, and I've shown this in a video in the past, and I just needed to re-traumatize y'all and make y'all understand that this is the scariest thing in the entire world to me. It is in Australia at the Kelly Tarletons, and guess what? It's abandoned now. Yeah, and it is still visible through a hole in the wall where it was abandoned in 2012. And here's a photo of it visible through the wall with all the dust on it, and oh my god, this photo is actually the worst thing and has banned all of my boozles, and I have difficulty even looking at it.
Really?
Call me a snowflake all you want, I don't care. This is the scariest thing in the entire world to me with my huge orca phobia, and I just can't handle this. No. Watch this video and let me know what you're thinking, and would you ever go on this ride back when it was operational? Oh my god.
Let's check it out. Where is it? About to come up? I'm cool with it. Looks like a jump scare though. Comes up out of nowhere. What's up with these abandoned parks?
Talking about the woman in Florida who was posing as a nurse for 2 years, and she serviced 4,500 patients. Granted, she's been arrested, but I was thinking to myself, how is this even possible? Like, surely there's some verification system when hiring a medical professional, right? From what I understood, she took her nursing exam, did not pass, so then when it came time for her to apply and she had to provide like a nursing number, something to prove that she was an actual nurse, she provided one for a different woman, a nurse who had her first name but not her last name. She's been arrested. She's gonna face something like 14 different felony charges for this, but I'm also questioning, I'm like, she's definitely at fault for lying, but is the hospital also not at fault? The nurses and attorneys, please weigh in on this one. I'm very confused.
Me too. Why is it red? Another seat turning red, that's a bad sign.
So Sydney Sweeney is allegedly costing American Eagle a lot of money. And this came from the blinds of apparently what American Eagle execs are saying behind closed doors, so I'm gonna get into it. Everybody's well aware of the American Eagle campaign that Sydney Sweeney did that was not well received. A lot of people criticizing it, including some celebrities, of saying that it had this bizarre subtext and undertone of genetic supremacy. And I do want to hear where you stand on this, but I'm more curious to hear about how you feel about the blind item. So the story that's allegedly getting buried here from all the bad press is that her endorsement did absolutely nothing for sales or even traffic or clicks to the website. Apparently execs are fuming because they assumed that her name and endorsement would equate to influence for the brand. Rumor has it American Eagle may have paid her upwards of 7 figures for the campaign.
Here are some photos taken right before...
I don't know if there's conflicting stories or not, but I don't know. I heard that. I just heard a different story. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what's going on with that whole ordeal.
For disaster, part 3. Here is the last photo ever taken of Paul Walker. It shows him climbing into the car that eventually crashed, taking him and the driver's lives back in 2013. Craziest part is, Paul Walker wasn't even the one driving. The guy driving was a professional race car driver, and the saddest part is that all this happened at a charity event that Paul Walker was hosting. RIP. This photo was taken right before the Homage bombing. The red car in this photograph right here contained a bomb that killed 29 people and injured some 220 others. Surprisingly, the man and child both survived, but the photographer didn't.
Where we at night, man? You know, some nighttime vibes?
Have you ever heard about the urban legend of the Japanese Kappa? We're going to be talking about it today, and here's an animatronic of one in water. So the Japanese Kappa is a water monster that has like a little bump on its head, which we'll get to that in a moment. But this thing that looks like an egg, you know what that is? That is your soul that it sucks out through your butt.
What?
Yeah, these Japanese water demons, they will suck your soul out of your butt, which is super interesting and also terrifying. This is one in a little tank, and that is super creepy, by the way. The little bump on the top of his head has to be kept wet at all times, otherwise the Kappa can apparently like cease to exist. So interesting. I was born with something called aplasia cutis. I don't know if you can tell, but I have a bump on the top of my head. It looks just like the Japanese Kappa. And I sent it to my mom one time and I was like, bro, I just realized with my bald spot I look like a Japanese Kappa. Google it. And she said, you do resemble him. Thanks, Mom. Here's another depiction of one, and apparently in Japan, you know how like sometimes parents will like scare their kids about like the boogeyman or like tell like tall tales and things like that.
Yeah.
In Japan, in order to keep their children from drowning and like keeping them near like large bodies of water, they will be like, do not go near that. There's a Kappa in there. They don't say Japanese Kappa, but they're like, there's a Kappa in there and it'll get you. And then so the kids don't go near there so that they don't drown. Super interesting. I always love hearing about stuff like that. But yeah, like culturally, apparently they like to mess with kids. Here's one in a human in like a Kappa suit, like traumatizing little children. And that's horrible. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of like submechanophobia of the Japanese Kappa in Japan. And watch this video and let me know what you're thinking. And I do not like this. Here's one of the animatronics with the person so you can see just how big it is in that water.
I just can't believe they said they take your soul through the butt. What the heck?
Here are some unexplainable photos, part 2. In August of the year 1997, members of the Russell family visited their grandmother in the home where she was living. They were later surprised to discover that in the background of this photo they took of her, their grandfather appeared behind her, but he had died 3 years earlier. Nicknamed the Black Knight, this mysterious space-like object right here has been spotted following an unusual polar orbit. When the drama of John F. Kennedy's assassination unfolded in Dallas, November 22nd, 1963, this unknown woman right here was there and filmed the whole thing. But the FBI was never able to locate her. Why was she recording everything and where did she go? This photo shows British war workers escape to the seaside. This photo was taken in September 1943. But in the middle of the photo right here, this guy looks like he's on a cell phone. Pretty cool.
Time travel confirmed? Oh, that was a different device.
Most dangerous countries in the world. Syria. Crime index 69.1.
USA about to be first, isn't it?
Trinidad and Tobago. Crime index 70.8.
Keeps increasing.
Honduras. Crime index 72.7. South Africa. Crime index 74.8. Afghanistan. Crime index 75.7. Haiti. Crime index 78.7.
3 signs that you might be a genius. 1. You're sarcastic. People that are sarcastic are usually clever and quick-witted. This is because being sarcastic requires you to think on your feet. Number 2, staying up late. If this is you at 3 AM, there's a high chance that you're smarter than the average person. So the next time you're tired in class, just show this video to your teacher. And finally, at number 3, you have messy handwriting. Studies have proven that people have messy handwriting because their brains work faster than their hands. Now everyone take a minute to tag someone or share this with someone that needs to hear it.
Okay, I'm number 2. And I got sarcasm down as well. I got 2 out of the 3, man. So
there's this fake nurse in Florida that treated 4,400 patients without a license at all. Here she is getting arrested in the car. She got arrested on Tuesday. This went on from July of 2023 up until literally Tuesday. How did she get away with posing as a registered nurse? Let's talk about how this happened. So she was working as an advanced nursing assistant, right? So she was working under the supervision of an RN. Eventually she would go on to lie at the hospital saying, she was about to take her board exam. She hadn't passed it yet, but she was, right around the corner about to take it. She gave them a licensing number that led to her first name, but not her last name. So she made up the story that she recently got married. That's why it didn't change yet. They requested the marriage record. She never provided it. She got their promotion anyways, and that's how she treated patients for 2 years. Now, this is a complete disregard of credentials by the hospital system and also her too. This is so dangerous for patient safety. This hospital should also be held accountable. Thankfully, a nosy employee decided to check her nursing credential status, and when they pulled it up, they found an expired CNA license. She's getting hit with 7 counts of fraud and also 7 counts of, mistreating patients because she didn't have a license to do that in the first place. But I have to emphasize, this also wouldn't be an issue if that certain hospital wasn't so, negligent on maybe doing a little screening and maybe waiting for the credentials to drop before you hire somebody or promote somebody. Either way, I hope her practicing for the last 2-3 years didn't negatively affect any patients or their families. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments about this.
You can die peacefully now.
Insane, truly.
Marshmallow without mask. Chris Comstock. First Instagram photo.
First dog selfie.
A black albino. Grown-up Teletubbies baby son. Ninja Turtle without mask. Vin Diesel with hair.
That looks like cat, bro.
McDonald's being built. Smurf without the hat. Rainbow's End.
Pot of gold at the end.
Places that you can't visit. Brazil. Snake Island.
Okay, Mr. Beast went to that island we saw.
North Sentinel Island.
Heard about that too.
Indonesia. Mount Merapi. Ukraine. Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Atlantic Ocean. The Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, we ain't going there.
Japan. Ayokigahara Forest. Tanzania. Lake Natron. Ethiopia. Danico Depression.
What is
Italy. Poveglia Island.
If you're thinking about going skiing or snowboarding this winter, you might want to watch this video. On March 2023, Francis Zuber was skiing on Mount Baker in Washington when he randomly noticed a snowboard just laying on the snow. As he got closer to the snowboard, it began moving around, so he realized that there was someone stuck beneath the snow. The man trapped beneath 6 feet of snow was 40-year-old Ian Staker, who fell headfirst in a tree well. And a tree well is an area around the base of a tree that gets filled with snow, so if you happen to get yourself in there, it is difficult to get out. Ian was stuck beneath 6 feet of snow for about 10 minutes before Francis spotted him. Francis began removing the snow with a shovel that he had in his bag, and you can see in this video how much snow there was and how deep Ian was in there. Ian said that he was pretty sure he wasn't going to make it out on that day, especially because he had been under the snow for about 10 minutes already, and he knew that if he went over 15 minutes, he would suffocate. In fact, Ian would go on to say that one of his close friends passed away a couple of months earlier after he fell in a tree well on that same mountain. And what's absolutely incredible and what some people call a coincidence is that Francis, the man that saved his life, wasn't even supposed to be skiing on that side of the mountain on that day, and the only reason he was there was because he ran into some of his friends and decided to go skiing with them on that mountain.
These are this.
Even fate seekers, man. Was it fated for him to be on that mountain that day, like I said, to save that man? For that man, I think to be in a not falling that same exact tree well as his friend, but to even speaking, I guess, snowboard on that mountain after what happened to his friend, that was a sign right there. Sometimes you gotta pay attention to the sign seekers. You never know.
Strangest things found inside people's bodies. Part 7. In 1999, an Indian man became the world's first pregnant man, even though he was born a biological male. You see, one day, Sanju Bhagat was dealing with a swollen stomach and was having difficulty breathing. So he went to the doctor to get it checked out, where they discovered a large mass inside him. When they took him in for surgery, they found gallons of liquid inside his stomach and an underdeveloped fetus. This was because Sanju was once a twin and consumed the other sibling inside the mother's womb, but this wasn't discovered until this moment. Next, in 2003, a Japanese woman discovered a rare tumor inside her ovaries. It's called a teratoma, and it can grow muscles, hair, and even bones and teeth. However, this teratoma also developed limbs, eyes, and a brain. In other words, it had pretty much everything it needed to become a conscious creature on its own, which is terrifying. And lastly, in 2014, an Australian man named Dylan Thomas came home from a vacation in Bali when he discovered a painful red line going from his belly button up his torso. And after 3 days of pain, doctors discovered that there was a spider crawling under his skin. Apparently, Thomas had just had an appendectomy performed on him, and the spider somehow snuck its way into his skull. Yeah, have fun trying to sleep tonight.
Dirty facts about history that school probably didn't teach you, part 1. Famous poet Edgar Allan Poe married his 13-year-old step-cousin at the age of 27. What are you doing, Step Poe? There is a legal pee-pee size in Iceland, and this comes from the Middle Ages where a man and a woman got married, and on their wedding night, the woman was so disappointed with how small it was that she took him back to the church to get a divorce. And because of her, a law was made that requires you to be 3 inches to get married. During times of war, some armies would wipe their poop on their weapons so that when they stab their enemies, they get that extra poison damage.
There are many letters between Benjamin Franklin and various women that suggest that he might have had a fart fetish. The person who wrote Frankenstein lost her virginity on the top of her mother's grave. Great writer, but terrible funeral manners.
Yeah, those facts are blowing my reality.
Animals discovered in 2024, part 1.
Firstly, I present to you the skeleton panda sea squirt that was recently discovered off the coast of Japan in 2024. These sea creatures can live up to 7 to 30 years, and scientists really aren't too sure why they look like this, but they named them skeleton panda sea squirts because they literally look like baby skeletons dressed up for Halloween. This is awesome. Next, breeders in the US have recently just created a new hybrid cat. Meet the XL Bully Cat, which is mixed with the Sphinx and Munchkin cat. However, governments are already saying that don't buy this cat due to its health problems by not having any hair and short legs. Yeah, I was not expecting this in 2024. Finally, in June, researchers found a new species of piranha-like fish, which looks like this right here. And they decided to name this fish Sauron, after Lord of the Rings, because these researchers seriously believe it looks just like it. And I mean, they're not really wrong.
Isn't that scary to think about, Seekers, man? Like, we still discovering new animals, new breeds in the oceans. That goes to show you how vast the ocean is, man. And if you really put it into context, it's the year 2024 and we still discovering new things about the ocean. It makes you wonder what else is lurking down there, man. That's why I don't be ruling out mermaids and sirens and things like that when I be watching this with you guys, because you truly never know.
Here are some dirty history facts I can guarantee you were never taught, part 2. If you ever told your history teacher any of these, they definitely go, what the fuck? According to private investigator Fred Stash, JFK was apparently a one-pump wonder, if you know what I mean. Ladies, for this one, I'm so sorry. For birth control, the Egyptian used a mix of ingredients, specifically 2, which included crocodile poop mixed with honey, and they would put it, yeah. Next, large eggplants, if you know what I mean, on the males of ancient Greece, were actually a sign of stupidity. Hence why all the statues have small ones, as it's actually a sign of being an intellect. Fuck! Stories go that King Tut was actually excited when he was mummified. That is definitely what I call a 2,000-year-old happy sleep. And finally, the whoopee cushion, revolutionary in today's society. But it actually dates back to the 14-year-old Roman Empire Elagabalus, when his whole legacy became inventing the whoopee cushion and pranking his dinner guests. Legend.
True prank legend, bro. Clap it up for him.
These are dirty animal facts you wish you never knew about, part 3. Up first, petting birds actually turns them on. They will start panting and shaking, and sometimes even puke on you. So the next chance you get to pet a bird, you might want to think twice about doing it. Next up, frogs sometimes might make a home out of elephant's poop. They do this because it provides shelter from the sun, and all the bugs crawling around in it make for an easy, quick snack for the frog. This is absolutely disgusting, and it kind of ruined my day. Next up, several species of birds keep cool by pooping on themselves. It's called heroism, and it's how some birds like storks, condors, flamingos, and vultures keep cool. It seems to do the same thing as sweating, except that instead of sweat, these birds dribble poop down their legs.
Hey, man. There's something new every day. Birds poop on themselves to keep themselves cool. Like I said, 7 species. You're going to have to look that up. Because I never do that.
And they didn't get a scientific name for hundreds of years, literally because the sailors traveling with them kept eating them before they made it back to London. So the giant tortoise population in Hispaniola Island was down ghastly. We're talking 12 females and 2 males away from getting discontinued permanently. That wasn't until they found a 3rd male, Diego. Diego peeped the census and knew what time it was. He locked in. They said, go Diego, go, and he came and went, and came, and went, and came. and then Wednesday.
Okay.
3 males were brought into the breeding program to try to save the species, and Diego proceeded to score a career high in spreading thighs. More rounds than Nick's cannon, the shell hefner got so active that he spawned over 900 children and fathered 40% of the turtles born in the breeding program. Immortalizing him as a tortoise that laid so much pipe, he carried the species. But there's something I didn't tell you. I said there were 3 males, but it was really Diego and friend, because turtle number 3 literally couldn't get laid if his species depended on it. Boy is more interested in Diego, but speaking of Diego, remember, I said 40%, that means turtle number 2 put in more work than he did. That turtle was E5, and I'm not a mathematologist, but numbers say he contributed 60%. But apparently, because Diego was a bigger and louder personality, he stole all the clout. Being named E5 probably didn't help. Either way, the turtle tag team saved their entire species, which now has more than 2,300 on the island. And both tortoises have since retired, and were returned back to Española to live with their turtle progeny, almost 80 years after they were first recruited. Moral of the story? Closed mouth don't get fed, especially when you're named after one of Elon's kids.
Putting up freaking numbers, bro. They cared into these species, man. They saved them all. Tag team too, bro.
Was Buddha considered a Christian saint? The Eastern Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church both honor 2 saints named Balaam and Josaphat. On closer inspection, the story of this Indian prince, Josaphat, appears strikingly similar to the life of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. But how did this come to be? Well, the story originates from an early Christian adaptation of Siddhartha Gautama's life. As Buddhism traveled through Central Asia, its teachings spread along the trade routes to the Middle East. Here it was adapted into other belief systems like Manichaeism. In the 8th century, Islamic scholars translated a Buddha biography into Arabic as Kitab Bilawar wa Buddhasaf, which means the Book of Bilawar and Buddhasaf. By the 11th century, it was translated into Greek, where it became known as Balaam and Josaphat. This adaptation recast the Buddha story into a Christian moral tale, with Josaphat as a prince who renounces wealth after guidance from Balaam, a Christian hermit. This version aligned with the Christian teachings on renunciation and devotion.
Artifact porn, part 30. This is an ancient burial mound in Marathon, Greece, that contains the ashes of 192 Athenians who perished in the Battle of Marathon more than 2,500 years ago. It's an extremely rare surviving piece of Tyrian purple dye that was found in the remains of an ancient Roman bathhouse. The color was used to create the famed purple clothing of Roman emperors and was extremely difficult to make. Just 1 ounce of Tyrian dye took 250,000 snails to produce, as it was said to be worth more than 3 times its weight in gold. These photos show the incredible evolution of ancient Greek statues over the span of just a few hundred years. Just this past summer, a tourist at a beach in Bulgaria noticed a beach bar table that looked considerably old. Law enforcement soon called in some archaeologists who eventually identified the item as a 1,700-year-old ancient Roman sarcophagus. Information about the artifact's history and how it ended up on a beach resort remain unclear.
That's the true question. How did it end up there?
Know the chilling child abduction story behind the Amber Alert system?
No.
It was January the 13th, 1996, in Arlington, Texas. Amber Hagerman was just 9 years old. She'd been biking around the area near to her nan's house with her 5-year-old brother Ricky. She had a new bike that she'd been given for Christmas, so she was really enjoying playing on it. Now the pair were cycling up and down. They weren't going too far, but it was obviously a different time back then, and children used to just play freely outside. However, within seconds, this innocent bike ride would turn deadly. Ricky told his family later that he saw his sister bike into a car park and then vanish. Another eyewitness from the scene saw much more than that. A man in his 70s reported seeing the child get grabbed by a man in a black truck. The man looked in his 20s or 30s, according to the witness. The witness then obviously promptly phoned police. Despite a big search for the little girl, they had absolutely no idea where she'd gone. They kept hunting and found nothing until a dog walker stumbled upon something horrific 4 days later. Tragically, in a nearby creek was little Amber's body. She'd been stripped and her throat cut by either a knife or a screwdriver. Her body was found less than 5 miles away from where she was snatched. Now, police desperately searched for leads but came up with absolutely nothing. The local community were really anxious to try and do something to help. In the absence of being able to track down Amber's killer, a local woman, Diane Simone, rang into a local radio station. She wondered if a national alert system could be created to send information to people about missing children, like they do for severe weather warnings. With that, the AMBER system was born. The acronym stood for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. Tragically, Amber's murder still remains unsolved 28 years later. However, the Amber Alert created in her honor has gone on to save many more children who may have otherwise ended up dead.
2024 just got even crazier. Part 17.
Firstly, just recently, while a tourist was at a beach bar in Bulgaria, he noticed that the table they were using looked odd. And it looked so odd, he called the authorities. Well, it turned out they were actually using a 1,700-year-old Roman coffin as a table. Yeah, the table was then taken away by the authorities, and my question is, how did they even come across this ancient artifact?
Yeah.
Next, Mountain Dew just announced that they are changing their logo back to their similar retro style on all of their products by 2025. You know, this is one of the first logo changes I actually like. Finally, just a couple weeks ago, the world's fattest cat, named Crumbs, who was 38 pounds, was sent to a fat camp to help Crumbs lose weight. Well, unfortunately, the fat camp was just too much for Crumbs, and Crumbs died after just weeks of being at the fat camp. R.I.P. Crumbs. What did they do to you?
R.P. Crumbs, man, down below, bro. How he get sent to a fat camp? He's supposed to lose weight, not lose everything, man. That's crazy.
Crazy tech facts you won't believe. Google rents goats to mow their lawns instead of machines. Over 90% of the world's currency only exists in digital form. The first computer virus was created in 1983. The first camera took 8 hours to capture a single photo. Can you believe we used to wait 8 hours for a single photo? Now with Send It, you can create AI images of yourself in seconds. It turns your Ask Me Anything answers into AI pictures. Someone asked me where I'd love to travel to, and Send It made this. You have to try this out. Download Send It and unlock your AI clone. Things that have been banned across the world, Part 3. Japan made obesity illegal in 2008. Iceland made strip clubs illegal in 2010. China made time travel illegal in 2011. Blue jeans have been banned in North Korea since 2010.
Blue Jeans, man. Don't they have, like, I'm about to say, isn't it a music group named Blue Jeans? The reason I know that's because, you know, FaZe Jason, bro, he blew up the freaking TikTok that went viral with the Blue Jeans song, so. But they freaking banned Blue Jeans in 2010. Time travel in China in 2011. What they hiding from us, bro? And obesity's illegal in Japan. That's crazy that they made obesity illegal, bro.
18-year-old girl named Donna lived with her father, and ever since her mother died, she depended on her father for everything. One day, Donna's father left for a business trip and said he wouldn't be back until later that night. Later that day, Donna got home from school and watched TV, and when the clock struck midnight, she noticed her father wasn't back, so she went to bed. That night, Donna had a dream where she was standing on a busy highway. She then saw her father trying to yell something to her. She couldn't hear him, but noticed he looked sad and was desperately trying to communicate with her. She could barely make out what he was saying, but it sounded like, "Don't open the door." Donna then woke up to someone ringing the doorbell. She then went to the door and looked through the peephole and saw her father's face outside. He was staring right at her and the doorbell was still ringing. She was about to open the door when she looked through the peephole again and noticed her father's eyes were wide open and he looked terrified. The doorbell then continued ringing as Donna begged her dad to answer. She then yelled, "I'm not opening the door until you answer me." The doorbell kept ringing, but her father refused to answer her. Donna then sat in the corner next to the door crying and listening to the doorbell ringing. She then fell asleep and woke up in the morning. She then got up and looked through the peephole and her father was still there. She then opened the door and saw something truly horrifying. Her father's severed head was hanging from a nail above the door and there was a note attached to the doorbell that said, "Clever girl."
Don't open that door, man, unless you hear a response. That's the moral of the story, that what I took from it. You never know who's lurking. That's an edit, bro. We see through that.
This will blow your mind. In a world's first, researchers at Osmo Labs have achieved the teleportation of smell. I mean, do you realize how crazy that is? Let me put it this way. So, as of right now, humans have only figured out how to teleport two of our senses. Sound, you know, with the telephone or speakers, and images with the screens that we look at all day. And we've done that because we've discovered a way to capture those senses digitally and then turn them into data that we can then send instantly. But now they have managed to do that with smell. So hypothetically, once they're able to replicate this process on machines outside of the lab, not only one day could you send someone a smell like you send them an image or a voice note. Oh my lord, the businesses that are going to come out of that one. I'll let the comments handle that. But also, and here's the craziest part, they say that by digitizing scent, they've effectively given computers a new sense. You're about to wake up in 2030 and your iPhone's going to tell you you stink. Go get a shower. Now the first smell they ever digitized was fresh plum. They captured the scent molecules in a digital format and then reprinted the exact same smell on the other side of the room, which came out looking like a regular clear liquid. And I guess that begs the question, what's going to happen to all of these expensive colognes once you can immediately reproduce them? Osmolab's CEO on Twitter said, "Holy moly, I am still processing the magnitude of what we've done."
19-year-old woman whose body was found burned inside one of these walk-in ovens in Walmart. Let's hear what the employees have to say about all of this.
Okay, these ovens are so hard to shut. From the outside, you have to push them. I'll show you.
Okay.
See that? You have to push it to click it. Now, watch me go in. Look, I can touch both sides. You can touch both sides. You scrape the floor. You have to clean the floor all the time. There's no way this door, they're not self-shutting. You could even say you swing it open too hard when you get something out of the oven. Let's see what happens.
Alright. Not closing.
This is one of the good ovens I've worked with. I've worked at 7 different stores over the 8 years. There are stores where they don't even latch. You have to hold it shut while it bakes for 30 minutes. There are stores where it pops open, you have to shut it, pops open, shut it, pops open, shut it. There is no way that this girl locked herself into one of these ovens while cleaning it. No way possible. There's no way possible. Let me just show you the emergency button.
Emergency button 2?
Pops the door open. Pops the door open. In my opinion, there's no way she did that on her own.
So I've been seeing plenty of these videos where Walmart employees are showing us how these walk-in ovens work. But just to be clear, all the ovens in these Walmarts, depending on the location, are a bit different. That they're not identical, but a lot of the features are almost the same. Something I consistently hear from the Walmart employees is that the door does not close on its own. Unless you try to close it with a lot of force, it doesn't just close and lock. There's also this inside the door, so if anyone was to get stuck, they can just easily open it and get out. Every video that I've watched created by a Walmart employee who works with these walk-in ovens insinuate that this young woman did not get stuck and that something else happened.
What do you guys think? Something else happened?
By growing brains in a jar and connecting them to a computer made from stem cells that were stimulated in a special way to form neural tissue, which grew and eventually formed structures and even brainwave activity similar to that of a premature human baby. They then hooked up this brain into a computer, connecting it into a virtual world where it learned to play Pong completely from scratch. I want you to realize what this means. Like, this isn't a computer bot that was pre-programmed to know exactly how to play the game. That's easy. It's an organic brain that they grew themselves that was given Pong with no instructions, and it just taught itself how to play. Which is honestly nothing new. That's just AI. But this is organic AI, which happens to learn quicker and is also more energy efficient than traditional AI. It learned to play Pong in about 10 to 15 rallies, when a regular computer AI would take around 5,000. Albeit the computer AI can simulate those 5,000 rallies much quicker, but that takes a lot more computing power, which is sort of our main bottleneck with AI at the moment. Energy. This is organoid intelligence. Take human brain cells, grow them in a petri dish, and then use computers to train them just like AI. Naturally, there are ethical concerns rising as there is surmounting evidence showing us that these are conscious, like a human. Even the scientists working on it themselves admit these organoids are sentient. They took it a step further and tested out these organoid brains inside real physical robots, feeding them the sensory input of everything the robot experiences. And since the computer chip running it is organic brain matter, This, technically, by definition, is a cyborg. Then there are companies like Final Spark that let you rent server space on these organoid brains, which essentially act like organic CPUs. You can even see live streams of the brain computers you're renting out. And now this next part right here, what they're doing here might actually prove a simulation theory. So they have this virtual butterfly simulation that's controlled by the organoid brains, meaning the brains feel and experience everything the butterflies do. Again, the brains weren't trained or programmed how to be a butterfly. Just like they did with Pong, they were just fed the sensory feelings of being butterflies and kind of figured out themselves how to flap their wings and just exist. Much the same way you weren't pre-programmed to walk or talk. You experienced sensory inputs in the forms of sight, sounds, touch, and learned. Taught yourself along the way. This is an organic brain being fed computer data to make it believe it actually exists in a simulated world, and it's also likely sentient. This company essentially just created the Matrix for butterflies, and its consciousness is available for you to rent out. And when no one's using it, it still just continues to exist with no human interaction whatsoever. If the brains really are conscious, as the scientists suggest, they're not going to know they're this organoid computer brain in a lab hooked up to a virtual simulation. They're going to believe that they really are that butterfly. If that's the case, what's stopping all of us from being our own organoid brains in some lab in a different dimension? Meaning this, everything we see and experience right now is our own simulation that we've been plugged into, except we're not butterflies, we're humans. And everything we do, every decision we make is not by our own free will, but by some, I don't know, fifth dimensional entity renting server space in our brains. Just the same way this Final Spark neural platform lets us do. And when we sleep, maybe our idle brain computational power is used for other purposes, which we experience as dreams. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. You gotta sleep tonight. Are we really brain organoids, existing in our own petri dishes, connected to and experiencing a fully virtual, simulated world? Because we just pulled it off. And according to simulation theory, if we're capable of creating virtual simulated realities, then chances are we're already living in one.
You was spitting, bro. Gave me some new information, man. I'm definitely going to dive into, man. Are we?
Insane facts about your eyes you never knew. Blue eyes are the result of a genetic mutation that occurred in Europe 10,000 years ago. The rarest eye color in the world is green. Only 2% of people have them. Your eyes can detect over 10 million different colors. You'll blink over 630 million times in your life. After all that blinking, no wonder why our eyes feel tired and irritated sometimes. That's why I've been using Theratears eye drops to keep my eyes hydrated after spending hours on my phone. The screen eye drops provide instant relief from dry eyes during the day caused by staring at screens for too long. And before bed, I use Theratears overnight eye drops to wake up with hydrated eyes that don't feel bad in the morning. Go to the link in my bio and give your eyes the break they deserve with Theratears eye drops.
Here are some kids who won Halloween. This little boy went as his grandpa, and that has to be the cutest thing I've ever seen. But it goes hand in hand with this little girl who went as her grandma. And this kid nailed his Russell costume from Up. This little girl and her dog totally won Halloween. Beauty and her Beast. And this kid went as the Stanley Cup. And here we have a little Beetlejuice. This kid went as a jet, and honestly, this costume is pretty cool. This little guy went as a toy soldier.
Oh yeah, he won.
And this kid as a gingerbread man is so iconic. And here we have the Squid Games girl. And this baby as Oscar the Grouch has made my entire day.
This is why you should always lock your doors as soon as you get home.
Black 30.
There's a guy outside.
The police was called and the man was left alone after his family explains he just has mental problems.
This man tried opening the door. Can you imagine what would have happened if that door was unlocked?
How rare is your body? Only 5% of people in the world can lick their elbow. Red hair is the rarest hair color in the world, and only about 2% of people have it. Next is the double row of eyelashes. Only about 1% of people have this, and it actually causes them to cry more. Only 5% of people have this extra hole near their ear, and it's actually proof that humans once had gills. And if you have 2 different colored eyes, you are super rare because only 0.1% of people have this.
How rare is your body, Seekers? I can do the elbow day. I'm pretty sure I don't have a hole next to my ear, so I don't have any power-ups.
The craziest torture methods ever. Part 29. The bastinado. Dating back to 1537 in Europe and 960 in China. Literally the act of beating the shit out of somebody's feet. Typically performed with canes or sticks. They made sure to avoid the bone structure of the ball and heel. They went straight for that soft tenderloin meat right in the middle. Fuck that.
A warning is now being issued for the price of the XL Bully cats, and people are being urged not to buy them. The mutant breed is being created by breeders in the US by mixing the gene that causes hairlessness in Sphinx cats with the gene that is responsible for short legs in Munchkin cats. And now they are spreading to the UK after being bred to resemble the XL Bully dog, which as we all know was banned in the country last year. The reason animal experts are urging people not to buy them is because they suffer from a number of serious health issues. Their short legs make it harder for them to jump, put them at a disadvantage if attacked, and can lead to painful arthritis. They have no whiskers, which can cause problems with communication and navigation. Their lack of fur gives them limited ability to regulate their body temperature and can even get burnt when out in the sun. And experts even say that this breed is likely to have a life expectancy at least 6 years shorter than the average cat. They're urging all cat owners to put health over aesthetics and not to drive this experimental breed.
A lot of people messing with nature, man. You're crossing the line when you do that. I never got that notion, man. Just trying to mess with nature. That's not the way it was intended to be. You can't just make up a cat species. Look at the result. That's an edit.
These three kids are pure evil. In 1966, in the southwestern town of Greenwich, Connecticut, there were three ill-tempered kids, Damien, Caleb, and Axel. The townspeople called them the Little Satans. From the age of 5, the Little Satans began to show a cruel side, frequently capturing small animals in the town's woods. The other kids in town were terrified and kept their distance. However, the parents of these three believed it was just harmless childhood mischief. Most townspeople chose to stay silent, fearing retaliation from these wealthy and influential families. But the Little Satans' behavior became increasingly brazen. One day, a few children from town went missing, and the last time anyone saw them, they were with the Little Satans. Yet, due to a lack of direct evidence, the local police were unable to launch a deeper investigation. One officer, Marcus Hayes, refused to give up. He kept investigating quietly, watching the three families day after day. Then, one night, all the Little Satans' parents gathered together, and Marcus sensed that something was wrong. He immediately called for backup, and they eventually discovered a hidden basement. Inside, they found the missing children from town. As Marcus dug deeper into the case, he uncovered something even more terrifying. Do you want to know what Marcus found? Comment Little Satans to watch part 2.
Scariest urban legend from each state, part 1. Slaughter Canyon in Arizona. A family lived down in the canyon in the 1800s. The husband would always go into the mountains and try and find food for his family. One day, the husband never came back. The family was starving. The wife went crazy and killed her children. To this day, you can still hear the wife crying for forgiveness around the area.
Slaughter Canyon.
While many people have a fear of flying, they should have a fear of driving. Statistically, if you lived through the drive to the airport, you've already survived the most dangerous part of your journey for the day until you get back into a car when you arrive at your destination. The chances of getting into a deadly plane crash on a large commercial airplane are around 1 in 13 million, but your chances of getting into a deadly car crash are around 1 in 100.
Crazy food facts you didn't
Fun
know.
fact, I never flew anywhere.
Dark chocolate can actually make you smarter. Bananas are classified as berries, but strawberries are not. Honey never expires. They found pots of honey in old ancient Egyptian tombs that are still edible. Carrots weren't originally orange, they were originally purple. If you have no time for breakfast and join the goal, Fuel 10K is the best food hack. I'm obsessed with their strawberry breakfast drink. It's tasty and a quick boost of energy. And if I get hungry when I'm working, their oat squares are the perfect snack to make me feel full.
Here are moments of regret that were caught on camera. This one guy thought it would be funny to fool around at his local water park by hiding in one of the slides until the park closed. However, he forgot the fact that when the park closes, someone comes by to lock up the exit to the slide. And this happened exactly where he was hiding, and he was locked up, and his imprisonment was caught on camera. Next, during a heavy flood in his local city, a man tried taking a risk and drove straight into a giant body of water. Not only did this damage his car, but also his dignity, because people nearby were recording and roasting it. Next, this Canadian TikToker was trying to make her cousin laugh, and she succeeded. But it ended with her having a harmonica stuck in her jaw. In the video, which she chose to upload, you can see her panicking and breathing through the instrument, sounding like Thomas the Tank Engine. And finally, this lady saw a punching bag at her local arcade and tried to take a swing at it, only for her aim to be so off that she ended up hitting herself. She then saw that she was being recorded by her friend, flipped him off, and then immediately slipped and fell. I think at this point you have to move countries.
3 ways to survive.
You took that out.
Number 1. If you see a boy holding a knife at the edge of the woods, don't go near him and run the opposite way. Jeff is extremely strong and fast. Once you get too close, it's already too late. Number 2. Don't ever go looking for Jeff. Looking for him is an extremely bad idea, being so that he's extremely sick and twisted, and he'll probably do things that you wouldn't like being done to you. So looking for him shouldn't be on your list. Number 3. Don't ever make waffles past midnight, being so that Jeff is extremely obsessed with them. He loves waffles, and once he gets that scent, he'll walk towards them, ending up in your kitchen with a knife. Like and follow for more videos.
No waffles after midnight. Noted. Who eats waffles after midnight? Well, people go to Waffle House, so. See, because have you guys ever been to a Waffle House? It's been a minute, man, but they have some good waffles. That's an edit, man. We call them mama. We call out the edits. Every time.
Roll now or lose your innocence. So fun fact, you actually like the taste of meat, but don't have the hardware to do anything about it. At least not to anything that's still alive. Yeah, I'd be shocked too. So you're looking at a deer taste testing a cat. No, I'm just playing. It's salt. We take it for granted because we can put salt in anything, but wild animals, they gotta get it out the mud. No, like literally. They get creative, and sometimes creative means a mouthful of soil. Sometimes elephants will go into caves just to lick salt off the walls. Yeah, you heard me. Elephants be splunking. And if you're a moose, you might just lick the salt off a car. Probably not great for insurance, car, health, life. A salt-feeding branch tank will wreck all 3. And it might not be a cunning linguist, but best believe a deer will lick a cat clean. Butterflies taste with their feet, and they're attracted to the salt in our sweat. So a butterfly landing on you is taste testing your salt-seasoned skin, and that is no joke. They'll also go out of their way to irritate the eyes of other animals to force them to cry just so they can drink the tears. Yeah, it ain't sweet. Salt can kill you in more ways than high blood pressure. Amazon animals often use clay licks called gold buds to add a little salt into their lives, which can get cut brutally short since jaguars will stalk clay licks knowing someone's gonna get got eventually. And deer using salt licks can spread chronic wasting disease. And if you don't know, CWD is death with busy work. And then you got that time mountain goats got addicted to the salt in human urine. And when I say addicted, they had to give them the Aerovac. Those goats were craving that mineral at all costs. Moral of the story, I don't think there is one. I don't even remember how we got here. So, something about cats?
Times when companies diss others, part 5. In 2009, Domino's ran an advertisement saying that in a blind test, their sandwiches beat Subway's 2-1. Well, Subway then saw this and sent a letter to Domino's demanding that they pull their ads from air. Well, Domino's replied with this commercial.
Domino's oven-baked sandwiches beat the taste of Subway's 2-1. Then Subway's lawyers sent us this letter demanding we pull our commercials off the air. I was gonna burn the letter, but everything's better when it's oven-baked.
Next, in 2016, a Burger King in New York covered its entire building with white sheets and dressed up as the ghost of McDonald's, saying that McDonald's was the scariest Halloween costume they could wear. And they also recorded this ad where everybody was just screaming at the building. McDonald's response was, "Who wouldn't want to pretend to be us?"
Weirdest kids' toys ever, part 16. Now this product isn't actually a toy, but it was designed for kids. Wonder Woman safety scissors. These are 100% real and from the late 70s. What were they thinking? I mean, just look at that spread.
Who is the weakest horror movie character on this list? You have Leatherface, Michael Myers, Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and Jason. Now, as we can all agree, Jason's getting knocked off the list already.
Yeah.
He's the strongest, as we all know. We're now left with Leatherface, Michael Myers, Pennywise, Freddy Krueger, and Pinhead. Leatherface is pretty strong, don't get me wrong, but if he went one-on-one with any of these characters besides Pennywise, I think he's getting clapped. I think him versus Pennywise would be an actually pretty good fight. Yes, Pennywise is a demon, and Leatherface is a cannibalistic human that runs around with a chainsaw. But still, I think it would be a good fight. Then on the other hand, if you have Pennywise fight any of these other characters, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Pinhead, and Jason, Pennywise is getting packed up. So I feel like it's only fair that Michael Myers gets off the list. Michael Myers is packing up all of these characters besides Jason, making him the second strongest. And then for shits and giggles, I'm taking Pinhead off as well, because Pinhead is extremely powerful. As soon as you open that cube, you're wraps. Those chains come out of nowhere, it is chalked for you. Then I'm taking off Freddy Krueger, because let's be honest, Leatherface versus Freddy Krueger, Leatherface getting packed up. Freddy Krueger versus Pennywise, Pennywise getting packed up. But now the two weakest, in my opinion, is Leatherface and Pennywise. And if those two fought it out, I really and truly think Leatherface is winning. No holds barred. Pennywise is a fraud. Ain't that scary and ain't that strong. Don't forget to like and follow for more. Comment down below what you think.
You guys agree with that list? I think, like I said, Freddy Krueger, yeah, he's, I think, the one-on-one, bro. And that guys know I never check out scary movies, but I've heard of Freddy Krueger many times to know about that. Yeah, how scary that movie was. I said it.
Once again, when you talk about Aura, you better speak on this bear. This is the boss. That's his name, no relation. He's a 700-pound walking boulder of a bear and an anime plot device in a grizzly's body. The boss has been recorded catching, murking, and eating multiple black bears. In fact, one of the first times he was ever seen was next to an expired bear, and officials had to close down the trail until the boss was done eating it. At one point, the boss hit a train and was tragically put down. The train, I mean. Oh, you didn't hear me. I said the bear hit the train. Boss ate that like it was nothing. He even shows up to the same tracks just to eat the animals that weren't strong enough to survive what he walked off. As mentioned, Boss was roughly the size of 2 prime shacks. As a whole plus-size predator, he was and is the biggest bear in the area, and it's believed he fathered more than 70% of all the bears in the area code. Mind you, he's believed to be up to 27 years old. Hey, twins, when the average male grizzly bear lives to 25. Which means by the time getting jumped, this bear on a LeBron type of run. And you know a bear that survived a literal train barely second-guesses cars, and the boss regularly crosses high-speed highways. It's anime plot armor with predatory hardware. The boss even has his own antagonist. That would be this guy, Split Lip. They've been running things for years, and they've been in the same area for 15, so this beef may have marinated for over a decade. But I don't think Boss has taken an L yet. Boss from Bam better put some respect on the OG original Grizzly.
Let's talk about a
Boss versus Split. Who we got?
The main character is not what he seems. Hypocrite. Fair warning, we are going to spoil the story here, or at least what I think the story is. If you'd rather check the game out yourself, I have a full playthrough of it on my channel. We play as a social media influencer named August, and his whole thing is that he helps kids when they're being harassed on the internet or in real life. A guy named Leon requests that you help him find his daughter who's been kidnapped, and while solving kidnappings isn't really your thing, you decide to accept. And then, the story takes a turn. We watch as our character opens up a secret passageway behind a bookshelf. What could he possibly be doing? When he's down there in that secret tunnel, we learn what he really is. Our character, August, is a monster. He does not actually help people. And Leon's daughter has actually been kidnapped in his basement this entire time. But when Leon finds out something is up, it's too late, and August takes them both out.
This Russian engineer has just spent the last 6 years in his garage creating a real-life Iron Man suit. And this is not some little fun gimmick. Bro has literally invented certain elements specifically for this suit, like hydrogen artificial muscles. You see those wires? They are connected to his muscles, so when he flexes, the suit moves with him. And it only gets crazier because he created a real plasma repulsor that creates such a quick hydrogen explosion that it can't even be captured on his camera. And just like the entire Iron Man suit is powered by Tony Stark's chest piece, RIP to a real one, so is this suit. He created the world's first fully functional personal hydrogen reactor that powers those plasma shots, the artificial muscles, and even this. Real hand burners that can reach temperatures of over 3,000 degrees Celsius. He made it by creating an electrolyzer that splits water into hydrogen and oxygen, which are then combined and ignited to produce the torch's flame. And the hardest part about this is creating a really powerful continuous torch, while also preventing it from blowing out, overheating, and just burning his hand off. So he casually solved this by designing a system with multiple nozzles and then added an inbuilt cooling system. Bro is literally Tony Stark at this point. Now he's currently working on the outer layer of this suit, which has taken him several months just to create the head and torso. Because he didn't just pick up the first material and get cracking. He has designed every element of this suit to fit his body perfectly, which is painstaking. He went from pencil sketches to creating an entire clay model. He then used high-resolution 3D scanning to create a precise digital copy. He 3D printed those parts separately, strength-tested countless materials, and then reinforced those pieces with Kevlar and carbon fiber. He even wrote and played the music he uses in the background of his videos. And he also holds the Guinness World Record for the world's first retractable lightsaber. And after 6 years, he's getting close. The question is, which will be complete first? GTA 6 or a real-life Iron Man suit?
Real life Iron Man. I'm taking that all day, every day, bro. Man, we were freaking pushing that boundaries, bro. Could you imagine? I couldn't even imagine the chaos, bro. Imagine Iron Man suits everywhere. That's just mind-blowing, man. I'm gonna have to check that out. That's it. Call them like we see it.
Multiple people have been reporting that their robot vacuum cleaners are getting hacked, allowing hackers to gain full access to the machine's microphone, camera, and motion controls. One family's vacuum cleaner was hacked, and the hacker began shouting racist slurs through the microphone as they drove it around the house. All the hacked robot vacuum cleaners were Ecovacs D-Bot X2s, which ABC News Australia had already exposed to have massive security flaws. In another home, a hacked vacuum cleaner chased the family dog around the house while shouting at it through the microphone. But at least these people knew they'd been hacked. It's much scarier for those who didn't. As you can see from the ABC Australia news report, the Ecovacs D-Bot X2 has a very good camera, and you can clearly see a person's face or body.
You never know what could be your last moment. It's giants? That's how the pyramid was built. That's how the pyramids were built, the Great Pyramids. Interesting edit. It's setting it up right.
This is why you should always watch videos to the end. In 2003, a woman came home to her apartment to see that her door was unlocked. She went inside, nothing was missing, so she assumed she must have left it open. When it happened a few more times, but still nothing was missing in her apartment, she went out and got a camera, set it up in her apartment, aimed at the front door. The next day, her door was unlocked, so she reviewed the footage. She watches in horror as late in the night, her front door opens and in walks this tall, creepy man who looks around and then walks towards her bedroom off camera. She immediately sprints out of her apartment and calls the police, who show up and tell her to go back in her apartment and just try to stay calm, and that they would put an officer right outside her door so she's safe. As she's sitting on the bed, totally traumatized, she realizes something. She only saw him enter her apartment on that video. She doesn't know if he actually left. As she's sitting there, she feels breathing on her ankles. She runs out, the cop comes in, and he finds the tall, creepy man under the bed holding a knife and a camera.
Creepy facts that you shouldn't read. Your mind gets sense when someone is staring at you, even when you're asleep. Which explains why you randomly wake up during the night. Spirits are more active at night and mostly exist in air-conditioned rooms. They look and stare at you at night. They read your mind and try to speak and show your future dreams. Follow if you're scared.
Here's some crazy history that you definitely have not heard before. Apparently Buzz Aldrin was difficult to work with, so Neil Armstrong almost replaced him for the Apollo 11 mission, but he ended up going. JFK was rejected from military service due to health issues during World War II, but because of his connections that his father had, he was able to still join the US Navy. Eisenhower had an alternate speech ready if D-Day failed, where he takes full responsibility for the failure and where he calls the decision to attack his decision, stating if any blame or fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone. A man survived a 324-foot fall from that pyramid-shaped building in San Francisco, and apparently a nearby guard heard him screaming, "Whoopee!" Okay. The Navy constructed a 300-foot ice cream barge during World War II, producing 10 gallons every 7 minutes to raise the morale in the Pacific. Creative, I guess. The Colosseum in Rome once had 80 different entrances to get in, with 4 of them being for the VIP high-stature people. And now there's only 3 entrances total in the entire Colosseum. There is a typo on the Lincoln Memorial. Specifically, the word future was initially engraved as future due to an error by the artist who made it. Apparently, he accidentally grabbed an E stencil instead of an F during the engraving process. And now you know.
Horror movies I have no business being in because I would be dead immediately. Absolutely not. And there's no way I'm surviving. Art the Clown. Have you seen the way he kills people? I mean, y'all, he literally cut a woman in half from starting at her hoo-ha and going all the way down, then wore that skin around. Like, granted, I ain't got no hoo-ha, but like that don't mean, like, he be coming after everybody and like slicing you with a smile on his face. And to 28 days, weeks, and years later, I'm gonna say no to that one too. honestly don't think I belong in a world where there's not a functioning Chick-fil-A. Like, why do I want to survive? A lot of people say like they just are ready for a zombie apocalypse, but I don't really know if I'd really enjoy that. Then what do you mean I gotta run from these alphas with their full bush slongs slinging all around as they chase you down, ready to rip your spine out? And then if I do survive, what's the point? I'm not a pilgrim. I don't want to ride over on the Mayflower and rebuild. That seems no fun. And this one too, that's absolute no. How are you gonna tell me that I got popped my eyeballs out in 60 seconds to live? I ain't about to do that, no. Well, that was fun. Let me know if you want me to do more of these, because these are pretty fun.
The way Andrew Gosden went missing in 2007, it is still one of the most mysterious cases out of the UK. This really young kid at the time, he was described as shy, he was intelligent, and he was living in a suburb called Balby in Doncaster. For no known reason, on one specific day, he woke up, did a fake out of going to school, but then decided to walk to a nearby rail station. He'd taken out about $200 of his own money from an ATM, and he bought a one-way ticket from his hometown to London. He was offered a return trip ticket multiple times by the clerk. He specifically wanted a one-way ticket. He also decided to bring his PSP on this trip. Was religious about this thing. He would always play it, but it was strange that he didn't take his charger, which would almost indicate that he had intentions to come back, right? And yet he only bought the one-way ticket. To this day, this still is the last remaining image of Andrew Gosden, as he was never seen after this one-way trip, and no one knows where he was going or why.
Where in the hell was he going, bro? One-way trip, no return ticket. Still lost to this day. Those are scary stories, man. You're just dropping off the face of the earth.
They have found missing children in a secret underground bunker in Alabama. Now, they have currently arrested 4 guys, all in their 20s. Kids have been going missing. There has been a massive investigation, and up until now, they have realised the severity of it. Now, all 4 men have been charged with counts of human trafficking, child rape, and kidnap. But it's so much bigger than this. One of the men has actually already been charged with selling these children to his clientele. Now, I suspect that this case is going to be massive. There is going to be so many more people who are attached to this who are going to be arrested. These children aged from 3-year-old all the way to 16-year-old. The house that has been located in the middle of a forest has an underground bunker. And these men have been dragging these children and hiding them here. And it gets even worse because it's also not just children. This is also the involvement of animals. Animals which have been raped and abused in this property. This is horrific. I'm going to be following this one because I suspect a lot more people are going to be getting arrested. I'm going to be dropping every single one of these horrible names.
Content creator Megan Gower is being slammed all over social media because of how she was treating her children on a live stream.
What's this? Absolutely not right now. What the fuck is it? It's the girl. This is bracelets. We don't have the time for that. We can do it tomorrow. Can you just open it? No, because you can have that shit everywhere.
No, I won't. Open it. Give me it. Open it.
I'm not opening it.
Then I'll open it.
Go ahead, try.
I can't.
Okay, get out of my outlet.
No.
Riley, not right now, baby.
I'm opening it.
I didn't tell her no. We're going to. Riley, you're here.
Don't start, right?
Girl, I will smack this motherfucker upside your head.
We're going to Monster Jam.
Give me it.
The dad's going crazy.
Give me it. Give me it. Give me it.
Get out.
Give me it. It's fine.
It's just a little game.
Give me it. Give me it.
Get out of my room.
Give me it.
Touch me again.
Mommy, touch me again.
Get out of my damn room.
Where can I go?
Yeah. I'm so glad you're so nice and like your motherfucking sister.
I've been mean to me.
Oh, how's it being mean to you? You've done your damn business. That's what.
I'm so sad. This is good news.
We're not supposed to. We're going to Alabama.
Trees caught on camera walking.
That was just so sad that she was talking to her daughter like that, man. She just wanted her to open something, right? So I don't know why she was meeting her with all that aggression. Unnecessary.
Okay.
They walking, or is that the wind or something pushing them? It has to be the wind blowing them, right?
This found footage horror movie is absolutely crazy, and you probably haven't seen it yet because it literally just came out. The movie Mindbody Spirit is supposed to be a video that was found on the dark web, and it was filmed by this woman Anya, who's a yoga influencer. And the entire movie is seen through her camera as she's filming her videos. But when Anya moves into her dead grandmother's house, she finds this mysterious book of rituals that her grandmother wrote for her. And not to spoil anything, but what happens next is genuinely terrifying. This is definitely one of the best horror movies to come out this year. And if you pay attention throughout the movie, you can see creepy things like hidden in the background. If I had to give one criticism, since this movie is framed as an online video, there's ads throughout the movie that's supposed to be a part of the movie, if that makes sense. And in my personal opinion, I found these ads a little bit distracting. Even though it's a unique concept, I just didn't think it worked with the tone of the rest of the movie. But honestly, at the end of the day, I just really enjoy horror movies where you get to see one character slowly go insane. So if you like found footage horror movies, you'll probably really like this one too. But like always, let me know what you thought and follow for more.
This is why you should never live next to crazy people. In 2015, a girl who was totally fed up with her noisy neighbors finally worked up the courage to go over there and tell them to be quiet. She knocks on the door, and out walks this insane-looking old woman who just starts hissing at her. And she doesn't stop hissing at her until the girl finally just leaves. She considers calling the police, but ultimately just goes back to her room and goes to bed. But she wakes up a couple hours later when she hears that same hissing sound. Her first thought is there's no way this can be my neighbor, because she had her door locked. But then she notices there's a big lump right next to her in her bed, and she reaches over to check who it is. Her crazy neighbor leaps out of bed and runs into the closet.
Oh no, we throwing hands. We ain't coming into my house like that. No,
This is a true horrifying story, part 25. Warning. This is not a joke. The information that's going to be shared is dangerous and life-threatening. Do not, under any circumstance, commit the actions that will be narrated. This is the world's most dangerous book ever, Shams al-Ma'arif. This book was written by Ahmad al-Buni in the 17th century. But technically, the author of this book is not a human being. I never did and will never read this book. And this is your second warning. Do not read this book. Ahmad al-Buni practiced black magic, and he was in contact with the most powerful jinns and demons before he passed away. The jinns were the authors of this book. The elder generations, like our moms and dads, have heard about this book, and they were warned by it. There are thousands of horrifying stories of people who read this book. Shams al-Ma'arif explains everything about black magic, how to get in touch with the world of jinns, how to marry a jinn, and the sacrifices you have to do for the devil, and much more. Unfortunately, this book can be easily found online. One day, a Saudi Arabian man that read hundreds of books for a living decided to read this book specifically out of interest and love for all books, without fearing the consequences behind it. He reached the chapter that teaches readers how to get married to a female jinn. He laughed about it. He tried the ritual to experiment it. The first night after finishing the whole book and completing the marriage ritual, he felt someone breathing next to his face. And on the second night, he felt a hand touching his feet. And on the third night, he heard her voice. The man was officially locked in a marriage with a demon. 5 years go by. He met a normal, beautiful woman that he fell in love with, and they both decided to get married a week before the wedding day. The bride, the bride's parents, and the groom's parents all pass and die in 3 different car crashes. These are the consequences behind this book. And it's also known from many stories of people that have died from reading the first few pages. If you don't finish reading the book, you will get killed. All my stories, all of them, are true incidents that happened one time only. But this book is a product that is permanently available online. I beg you, do not go anywhere near Shams al-Ma'arif. This video is to educate you on the dangers behind this book. Do not go anywhere close to the world of jinns.
I take heed of his warning. That book sounds cursed. We will not be reading that at all. Late at night. Was blocking the gate. Was someone in a dumpster?
Bone-chilling facts that you probably don't want to hear. Your bed can have over 10 million dust mites living in it. You know, the same bed you sleep in. Ancient Romans believed that drinking the blood of fallen warriors would give them powers. So at the end of gladiator games at the Colosseum, they would go out and drink the fallen soldiers' blood. Chainsaws were originally invented for childbirth. Ugh. Over time, the blade of a guillotine would get dull, which meant that sometimes they would have to do it twice to finish the job. And while we're on the subject, it's estimated that somebody can maintain their consciousness for about 20 seconds after they've been decapitated.
I'm gonna have to call Kappa on that. I still don't believe that fact.
Horrifying facts that will blow your mind. Part 2. These are onion rings.
Yep. That's the fact that they're
What
onion
in the
rings?
get out is going on here? So I saw this on X, y'all, and I had to share this with y'all. So this couple, this interracial couple, went on a date, right? Now this dude posted this on Facebook originally and it went viral. He said, "This is why I don't usually date outside my race." Now, if y'all have never seen the movie Get Out, you better go watch it. So basically he went out with this girl. They went on a date. That was a picture of them. And then she texted him saying, "I definitely enjoyed our night out, but I don't think my parents can find out about us, ... He said, "Same here, and why?" And she said, "They despise black guys. My last black boyfriend, let's just say it didn't go well. They literally set him up to be put in jail for life for something he didn't even do. Google Wellington. I really like you, but I don't want anything to happen to you." Not giving his government name. And then he replied and said, "I like you too, and yeah, that's crazy. I went to school with him. Maybe if you sat down and had a conversation with them, they'll loosen up. Think they would be down for dinner?" And she said, "I'll ask, LOL, because I really like you, and I will not lose you." And then he said, "I don't want to lose you either." And then she basically said that her mom and stepdad would be open to meeting that evening. So I guess he meets the parents. He takes a screenshot of the dinner and shows receipts of the meeting. This is so creepy. So he took her phone and saw a message. This is so creepy, y'all. Saying this. He said, it says basically that was her talking to her mom. "Mommy love." He seems well put together, but it's something about him me and Jeff don't approve of. He seems like he would be good around the house for things we need, but not for a relationship. Tried to convince him to start working for us, and once we take a trip to the mountains this summer, well, know the rest. Well, you know the rest. What? And then she said, "Mom, I really like him. Can I at least keep him? He's very sweet." What? And then she said, "Not at all. Dating a black guy in the South, especially Mississippi, is not recommended. Do as you're instructed, please. You'll find someone better." And then she says, "Okay, I'll let him know that Jeff is hiring for work around the house." And like, what? He then posted this post on FB saying, "So this is why I stopped dating outside my race. Would be good and set up." And to this day, she still don't know that I saw those messages in her phone because I left afterwards and never said nothing else about it. Be careful out here, especially in Mississippi. Y'all better be safe. This is crazy. This is literally insane that this is a true story.
My brothers, this is out in Mississippi. That was crazy, man. Be safe out there. Well, I'll try to pull a Get Out in real life, man. Good thing he caught it in 4K, bro. He got saved. Wow. That story doesn't even sound believable, man. But once they say it was that, I believe it.
Has been sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Many were hoping that Kohberger would speak in court today, but he only said that he respectfully declined to speak to the court ahead of his sentencing. The killer remained stone-faced as the victims' families gave their impact statements before the hearing. However, the courthouse erupted in applause after this scathing statement by Kaylee Goncalves' older sister, Olivia.
Let me be very clear. Don't ever try to convince yourself you mattered just because someone finally said your name out loud. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep, in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your ass. Thank Thank you.
Finally, before the emotional judge issued down the sentence, he said it was finally time to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame.
Jeffrey Epstein is still hiding plenty of secrets. So let's talk about a big one. So we all know Jeffrey Epstein. Some of us are going to know the former Attorney General Bill Barr under Donald Trump. But did you know that Bill Barr, the former Attorney General of the United States' father, Donald Barr, was the headmaster of a prep school in New York City while Jeffrey Epstein was employed there? Yes, here's Jeffrey when he was a teacher at this school. It was called the Dalton School in New York City, and Donald Barr, Bill Barr's father, was the headmaster at the time. Now, obviously, it's disturbing looking back that this man would have hired it was called Space Relations. And the plot of the book was as follows, quote, Space Relations is a science fiction novel about a planet ruled by oligarchs who engage in... I'm not making this up. You can buy a copy of this book yourself and read it. I've read passages from it, and this is very disturbing stuff. So Donald actually published that book while he was the headmaster of the school, at the same time that Jeffrey Epstein was there. And then decades later, Bill Barr, Jeffrey Epstein's former employer's son, would lead the prosecution against him when he was arrested, as he was the United States Attorney General at the time. If you still think these are all coincidences, I honestly just don't know what to tell you. Now, interestingly enough, when the Epstein thing really started in 2019, people asked Bill Barr to step away from the case, but he refused. You see, Bill Barr had already had experience covering up the Franklin scandal in Omaha, Nebraska, which we can talk about in a later video because it's a lot of info. But yeah, this is just incredibly shocking stuff that I don't see anybody really talking about to this day. And if you want to hear me rant more about topics like this and do extremely deep dives, check out my channel on YouTube, The Conspiracy Files, or the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Breaking news. Police found a man trapped in the tunnels of rapper Diddy's house. And when they found out who he was, they were in for a shock. According to sources, it all started with an anonymous tip that pointed out suspicious activity at Diddy's mansion, which is located in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Los Angeles, California. While investigating the location, the police found a secret tunnel system that stretched for more than 200 meters. But what caught their attention the most was something hidden in one of the rooms in the tunnel. As they entered the tunnel, the police began to hear noises and screams coming from one of the rooms. Shocked, they decided to investigate who was making those noises, especially in an underground tunnel. When they entered the room, they came across a scene that looked like something out of a horror movie. A living person was chained to a chair. According to the investigators, the victim was visibly shocked and said that he had been there for years and had to catch insects to eat without contact with the outside world. The investigators were shocked and decided to ask who it was. When he revealed his name, everyone in the room was completely stunned because it was unbelievable. And when he tells you who he is, you will be shocked. Commentary for part 2.
What was it? Who wants to go to a park called Death Valley? Not me. That name is just asking for trouble. People still go there? Those are some brave people.
I think this is one of the most terrifying photos I have ever seen, but the gag order in the Bryan Kohberger case has been lifted. This gag order banned police and prosecutors from speaking about the case ahead of the trial, and the intent was to ensure Kohberger's right to a fair trial so that he couldn't appeal on random grounds after a conviction. But now that Kohberger has pleaded guilty, the gag order has been lifted, and this comes just days before Kohberger's official sentencing, which is scheduled for July 23rd. All documents in the case that have been sealed will remain sealed for now, but the Moscow police said they are preparing to release a large amount of information later on. And Judge Hippler said court documents would be made public in batches upon review by the court. After the judge lifted the gag order, Moscow Police Chief Anthony Dollinger said, "We've been focusing on the victims and bringing justice for the victims. That was our focus. That was our mission. So that mission was accomplished." When asked if police were able to find a clear motive, Dollinger said he could not answer. But this means that soon we will likely know a lot more about what prosecutors had against Kohberger, including potentially knowing a motive. So we will see what will be released in the coming months.
His headless body was found in a fish tank. 65-year-old Brian Egg was born in San Francisco, California, and spent his whole life there. He decided to live close to his family so they could always visit, and communication played a major role in the relationship. In mid-2018, the family's communication got weaker and there was fewer visits. Since Brian had so much free time on his hands, he decided he was going to help serve his community and would pick up trash from the alleyways. On one weekend, neighbors noticed Brian doing his voluntary community service and go inside of his house, but that was the last time they ever saw him. About a month later, Brian's brother Devon called his cell phone to catch up, but it went straight to voicemail. Devon was alarmed by this because he knew his brother would always answer the phone. In addition to that, his answering machine didn't really sound like his voice. Devon tried to call Brian's phone again, and on the third time, it was picked up by a man who went by the name of Nate. Nate informed Devon that Brian was taking his dog out for a walk and would call him as soon as he got back, but Devon never got that call. At the end of July of that year, Brian's neighbors started suspecting that he was probably missing. He was familiar with almost everyone in his neighborhood and no one had seen him. They informed police about this, and if he wasn't missing, he may be suffering from an injury inside of his home. When police went to Brian's home, there was no answer, so they left and didn't continue with an investigation. Police just assumed that maybe Brian went out of town and didn't tell anybody, but his neighbors knew that something had to be wrong. Within a short period of time, neighbors noticed two individuals going in and out of Brian's home. The two men appeared to be homeless and were using Brian's home as their own. Neighbors alerted police and they told them that they would look into it, but again, they didn't take this case too seriously. Since Brian had not contacted his family in months, his sister ended up reporting this to the police. On August 4th, police went to Brian's home to investigate, but once again, no one answered the door. Once they left, neighbors noticed what appeared to be deep and thorough cleaning at Brian's home. Soap bubbles were emerging from the front door and there was a strong scent of bleach. Strangers who were living at Brian's home were seen painting like they were covering something up. On August 7th, Brian's sister filed a missing persons report. About a week later, neighbors called police after seeing a crime scene cleanup company outside of Brian's home. Finally, police took this report seriously and ended up searching Brian's home. Police ended up arresting Robert McCaffrey, and he had been living in Brian's home for at least 2 months, and then 2 days later they arrested Blanche Silva. The two men were charged with ID theft and financial crimes. They were caught using Brian's credit cards where they purchased a car. A thorough search was done on Brian's home, and about 4 days later they found a storage room underneath the staircase. Once police went inside of that room, they found a hidden fish tank, and inside that fish tank they found the torso of a beheaded body. It would be later confirmed that it was Brian's dismembered body. Brian's death would be ruled out as a homicide, and those two men were charged. However, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office later on would drop all of the charges, and to this day, those two men are free. Unfortunately, no one has ever been found guilty of Brian's murder.
Eric Menendez is being treated for a serious medical condition, and his lawyer is asking for his release from prison now, a month away from his parole hearing. This comes after the Menendez brothers were resentenced from life in prison without parole to 50 years in prison. They have parole hearings set in August. Today, it was reported that Eric had been diagnosed with a serious medical condition, and following his diagnosis, his attorney, Mark Garagos, has asked California Governor Gavin Newsom to allow his client to leave prison. He said, "I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. I'm not going to violate HIPAA or attorney-client privilege. But if there's anybody that should be furloughed, especially right now, a month before the hearing, it is Eric." While he noted that the diagnosis was hopefully not life-threatening, he reiterated that it was serious, saying he should be medically furloughed so he can work with the parole attorney and be up to speed and be ready. It is the only fair and equitable thing to do. After the attorney made this statement, TMZ confirmed that 54-year-old Eric is being treated for kidney stones, but this has not been confirmed officially by the lawyer. Eric and Lyle both have parole hearings set for August, just a month from now. And at that hearing, it will be decided if they will be released or have to spend more time in prison. But at least Eric may be let out early if he can get this medical furlough. Barry Morphew's indictment has revealed more details about his wife's death and how investigators were finally able to charge him with her murder. Suzanne Morphew disappeared on Mother's Day 2020, and her husband Barry has been a suspect from the start. In 2022, he was arrested and charged with her murder, but the initial charges were eventually dismissed without prejudice, meaning authorities reserved the right to charge him again. After this, authorities continued to search for Suzanne's body, and on September 22nd, 2023, in an unrelated search, Suzanne's remains were found. The bones were found in and around a, quote, shallow clandestine grave less than an hour south of the Morphew residence. And then on June 20th, 2025, Barry Morphew, after being indicted by a grand jury, was arrested and charged with the murder of Suzanne. He appeared in court last week, and we now know more details from his indictment. The indictment says that the majority of Suzanne's bones were recovered and that a board-certified anthropologist, a botanist, and an entomologist were brought in to analyze the remains, and they concluded that it was unlikely that Suzanne decomposed from a fresh body to a skeleton at the location where she was found. So that means that her body was moved at least twice after her death. Also speaking out recently was a man who got to know Barry Morphew after the charges were dropped and Morphew moved to Arizona. He moved to Cave Creek, Arizona, and started going by the name Bruce. Public records indicate that Barry Morphew paid property taxes at the Stardust Trailer Park and was self-employed. In Colorado, he was a landscaper and independent contractor, but he didn't hold any of these professional licenses in Arizona. This man who got to know him, Charlie Lutz, was an employee at a restaurant in Cave Creek, and he said he didn't know Morphew's real name until he was arrested on June 20th. Up until that point, he knew him as Bruce, a man who came in and drank beer. He said that Bruce was always approached by other women at the bar, saying that he would also frequently approach other women and flirted with them. One of these women, Libby Spurl, recognized him immediately. She said, quote, "He walked up to me and said, 'Hi.' He's like, 'Do you want to dance?' And I said, 'You're Barry Morphew.' And he said to her, 'No, I think you have the wrong person.'" A bit later, Libby said an individual approached them and introduced Barry Morphew as Lee from Indiana. And according to his indictment, he went by the alias Lee Moore, and a gas station clerk confirmed he knew Morphew as Lee. He was clearly trying to go unnoticed so that people wouldn't recognize who he actually was. But now he has been arrested and indicted by a grand jury.
How many identities he had? Bruce Lee? I just now put that together, bro. Bruce Lee. Yeah, two separate identities, man.
He ended his sister's life because his Xbox was laggy. 19-year-old Alexis Brianna Watkins was from Macon, Georgia, and lived in a home with her family. This included her 16-year-old brother Kevin, her mother Latoya, her 13-year-old brother, and her son. Alexis was described as outgoing and having a zest for life. She was in a relationship with her high school sweetheart. The two would end up getting engaged, and she would have her firstborn son. She poured her heart and soul into becoming the best mother that she could be for her son, and with her high school sweetheart, they were a very tight-knit and loving family. On February 2nd of 2018, Alexis's 16-year-old brother Kevin returned home from school and wanted to play his Xbox. He was getting angry because his Xbox was lagging, and he assumed it was because there was too many people on the Wi-Fi, so he went ahead and changed the password so that no one else could use it. Kevin and Alexis's 13-year-old brother realized what he had just did, so he went to go tell his mom. Once her mom found out what Kevin had did, she unplugged the internet router and went to his room and took out his Xbox. This made Kevin even more angrier. He confronted his mother, trying to fight her, but pushed her to the side and said, "I don't want to hit you." Alexis stepped in to save her mom and grabbed Kevin in a bear hug and told him to chill out. At this point, Kevin is in a fit of rage, and he has his sister in a prolonged chokehold lasting 15 minutes. The mother and 13-year-old brother tried to separate the two, but he told his mom that he would hurt her if she tried to intervene, so she ran to call 911. As she was waiting for police to arrive, Kevin still had a tight grip on his sister's neck. Once police arrived, Alexis was unconscious, her body was limp, and Kevin still wouldn't let go. Once officers told Kevin to release his grip, he did, but it was already too late. Alexis was rushed to the hospital, and they were able to resuscitate her, and she was sent to the ICU. She had a condition resulting of lack of oxygen to the brain, and the next day she passed away. Authorities immediately arrested Kevin, and he was charged with the murder of his sister. Ultimately, the judge found Kevin guilty, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Over an Xbox, man. Lagging. Really? One of the most disturbing cases we heard yet, Seekers. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I greatly appreciate the support. Make sure you comment down below. Hit that post notification bell so you always get notified when I upload my next videos. You guys are going to catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.